as it relates to what I'm going to be discussing with you. And as you all know, I will be discussing with you today the allegations of domestic violence leveled toward our Mayor Bruce Knell. You should know, however, I will be delivering some prepared comments here, and we will entertain questions and that kind of thing, but you won't be hearing from the mayor or members of the city council. This will simply be a sort of a city organizational representation of information today. I've prepared these comments primarily along the lines of a number of questions that we have seen and sort of gathered from social media and with regard to other questions that we've received largely from the public. One of those of which is with regard to the timeline by which the city has become engaged in this conversation, in this dialogue. On Monday afternoon, I was made aware by the chief of incidents related to an alleged domestic violence attack in Austin, Texas, during a personal trip that the mayor and his wife were taking to go see the Cowboys game. And it was later that day that I was furnished a copy of the temporary protection order that was issued by circuit court through the city attorney's office. Pursuant to that assemblage of information from both the chief and the attorney, who are here today, by the way, to answer any questions potentially, I let the members of the council know that we may be having a story come out, as it were, with regard to actions alleged to our mayor, without any details or anything being given to the council at that point in time. Tuesday night, which would have been this past Tuesday night, the city council and the city attorney and I had the opportunity to visit an executive session to discuss legal advice that the attorney had for the city council to consume. And then, of course, the public dialogue with regard to this information began yesterday afternoon in earnest, which is why we're here today. Another primary question that we are getting a lot of attention directed towards is with regard to the involvement of our police department, or non-involvement, as it were. You should be aware, first of all, that we are not aware of any active investigations concerning our mayor, whether that be here in Wyoming or in Texas. Investigations may be forthcoming in either of those jurisdictions, but we are not aware at this point in time that might be the case. I would also tell you, given the connection, if you will, that the PD has with our mayor, it is very likely that any actions that need to be followed up on from here on out will be directed to the sheriff's office. And I would also tell you that any concerns that have been directed our way pertaining to potential substance abuse has been directed towards the DCI. And that will be up to them whether or not they pursue those concerns any further. Another series of questions that we are receiving is with regard to how the mayor is being allowed to stay in office, and it might help to go through that a little bit with you if I could. The reality is that there are formal channels that both the council as well as the electorate could pursue pertaining to the mayor's continued tenure in both his office as a mayor or with respect to his seat on the city council. Those channels are indeed laid out in both ordinance as well as statute. However, at this point in time, I do not have any indication that the city council is interested in pursuing those avenues, nor am I aware of any active petition pursuant to the electorate's options being organized at this point as well. Without a doubt, Mayor Knell certainly has the opportunity to consider a voluntary resignation that he would tender on his own free will and choice. However, at this point in time, I'm not aware that he has that in mind to do. And so that may or may not become something that happens. Furthermore, you should be aware that the mayor is not an employee. He's not an employee of the city. He's not an employee of the city council. And so therefore, he cannot be released, as it were, for cause, like an employee potentially could, or for reasons provided through an at-will arrangement. Again, because he does not have an employee-employer relationship with either the council or the city of Casper. And so that is not an option to consider. In fact, you probably know that the only employees that the city council has are myself, the city attorney, Mr. Nelson, and the municipal court judge, Ms. Martinez, Judge Martinez, and that is it. I wanted to also let you know that indeed the council has provided notice that they will be holding a city council meeting tomorrow morning at 9:30 a.m. over at the Lyric, where it is likely that an executive session will be called, at which point they will have the opportunity to discuss legal advice through Mr. Nelson, personnel matters, and security matters as well. In light of the specter that this dialogue raises regarding domestic violence, and pursuant to the fact that October is Domestic Violence Awareness Month, I feel it appropriate, albeit with sensitivity, to say that as it relates to domestic violence, the city takes a position that all acts of domestic violence are egregious, they're inappropriate, and without a doubt, a scourge in our community. As a matter of fact, we had an act of domestic violence that our police responded to just last night, or potentially in the wee hours of the morning this morning. We have acts of domestic violence way too often in our community. And without a doubt, our heart goes out to all victims and survivors of domestic violence within our community and without. I feel it also very important and appropriate to say that Mayor Knell is innocent until proven guilty, and as a citizen, due the process and all the rights that the judicial system would provide any citizen of our community. Finally, my last comment would be that despite all of the emotion and energy that these kinds of large public dialogues typically entail, your city will do the best that we possibly can to continue to conduct business of the citizenry as usual and without interruption, and hopefully without much delay. I do expect that any directives or whatever that the council may or want to pursue or whatever, we will embrace and do just as we would any other time in the course of trying to operate as a city organization. So with that really is the bulk of my prepared comments. However, I'd be pleased to take questions. Go ahead, Stu. You got